Good morning. I thought I was really good at shouting, but actually, probably I'm not. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm glad you guys are awake. Well, first of all and foremost, thank you so much for coming over. I'm thrilled to be here and to be here standing just, in front of you to celebrate for the 7th year Positive Week. And I can't quite believe that it's been 7 years. We've got a packed house, which is fantastic. So thank you again very much for coming. 2018 has been a transformational year, not just for our business, but for the luxury industry as a whole. This year, the luxury industry has decided to be a lot more vocal and a lot more transparent. And I'd like to kick off the morning with a short message from Loro Piana.
Buongiorno everybody. I apologize for not being with you today, but at least I'm able to participate with this little message. Loro Piana has a long history. It's sixth generation and more than 200 years of passion for sustainability. Our dedication every single day is to discover, to discern, to care, and to transform the most beautiful natural fibers around the world. I think all this is important for luxury, but I think it's equally important in today's world, getting more and more hectic, and in a world in which who takes care of the public sector is less and less able to look at long term. So I think today more than before, people that manage company and CEOs can play a role in taking care of the planet and the heart. I'm a great fan of positive luxury. In Loro Piana, we are proud to support Diana and her team. And I think they have an incredible commitment and proactiveness to sensibilize people about sustainability and attention to anything related to the planet. But they do in a way that really goes at the heart of our business. They're able to talk to customer and come back with what customer real insights are about these topics. In conclusion, enjoy the day. I know Diana can be extremely contagious, so I hope her spirit will be very contagious with the entire audience today and create a green wave in the coming months. Thank you. Goodbye.
I didn't really know that when he sent the video he was going to say that, but thank you. Antoine Arnaud, who is the corporate communications manager director actually for LVMH, started the New York Times conference early this year, saying that transparency and communications is a competitive advantage, especially when it comes to sustainability. The mystery and the romance of luxury has flourished when its doors are open, when people can see, can experience, and authenticity and honesty are on the forefront. This is like any relationship, guys. So communication is absolutely key. And of course, millennials are glued on their phones. I mean, they are digital natives, and they expect transparency from brands at all times. And if you don't offer that transparency, they'll find it. And if they can't find it, they'll be angry, and they blog, and they go into social media, etc. I have the pleasure and the pain to work with millennials. So I actually know firsthand what that could actually be. But the good news is that brands are responding positively about this movement. So Chanel, early this year, has published the first report for society and also have opened up about their financial figures. Louis Vuitton has been awarded the Butterfly Mark by Positive Luxury, and I'm not sure if you've seen in the news, like, WWDs, thank you Sam. They're actually starting to communicate this openly. And Hermès, well, wait for another hour. The director of sustainability of Hermès is going to be here, and he's going to be telling you what are they doing. So I am here more happy than I can ever be, because I've been working in this field since the year 2000 with this dodgy accent and trying to talk about sustainable development. So imagine the challenges back then. So today is so much easier because, of course, the dodgy accent still remains, but everybody knows what sustainability is. So, you know, I think we are standing in the most exciting times in history. The world is more interdependent, interconnected, and transparent than ever before. And do you know what that means? Power. Power. Power to each one of you to actually make a change, to leave the planet and the world and society in a better state, or at least the same state where we found it. And this is not that, you know, other people can do sometime, or, you know, people in another country. This is each one of you have the power today, right here, to choose for brands that resonate with your values, whether you're passionate about diversity, animal testing, you know, packaging, plastic, whatever your passion is. Find out which brand represents you and buy from those and ignore the others, if I might say. So before handing the floor to our brand ambassador, Storm Keating, I would like to say a few thank yous. First and foremost, to our partners, Credit Suisse, Café Royale, British Fashion Council, WWD, Apple Yard Flowers, and the Luxury Society. Also, a heartfelt thank you to Aurélie, Laura Whitmore, Jana Peel, Amy and Stephen Webster, Mark and Fiona Ferguson, Hamish Scott, Elizabeth Payton-Jones, Mira Dumas, Gillian Anderson, Maggie Enriquez, and Fiona Fang for the last few months. These guys have supported, connected, shared, listened, encouraged, and contributed to make today possible. Of course, this not being able to be real without my team. My team have worked incredibly hard to put today together, so thank you guys. But not just that, I mean, without them, Positive Luxury will be still a dream in the back of a napkin. Also, I'd like to say a big thank you to Professor Tim Jackson and all the students of the British School of Fashion, part of the Caledonian University, where I have been made an honorary professor this year. So thank you so much, everybody. No, that doesn't mean that I can still spell, no. And in all things, you know, Scottish related, there is one very important Scottish thing or person to me. This is my co-founder, Karen Hanton. I don't know what Karen is, by the way. Oh, just right there. I know Karen for 26 years, and Karen has been absolutely fundamental for not just the development of Positive Luxury, but the development of my career. So Karen started Top Table in the year 2000 with dial-up internet and pre-smartphones. Imagine that. So needless to say, she's a technology pioneer and probably one of the kindest people I have been very lucky to meet throughout my life. So Karen has mentored me, encouraged me, and support me, not just to be a better leader every day, but also to be a more rounded person. Thank you, Kay. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce you to our host for the day, our brand ambassador, the absolutely amazing Storm Keating.
Sorry, I went a little blind after breastfeeding and I have size 14 font and a huge folder. I wish I was as delicate as Dee with the hand cards. Just before we get started, I just want to take a moment to say how proud I am to be standing here as a Positive Luxury ambassador and to be kicking off what's sure to be an exciting week for not only the company but all our brands. Over the last number of years, I've watched Diana and Karen take this inspirational enterprise from strength to strength. Simultaneously, I've witnessed the conversation change and sustainability change, the language change, the connotations and the importance change. And man, has it changed for the better. Yes, we still have a long way to go, but never have I been more excited and hopeful about what's ahead in the future, and as tiny as my role is in this movement, I'm so honoured to be a part of it. When I first met Diana, she said something to me which has resonated with me ever since. And she said the goal is not to take a small group of people, a minority, and turn their lives upside down and encourage them to be 100% sustainable. That's not going to have huge impact. She said the goal is to ignite a mass of people and encourage them to make small changes if and where they can. And hopefully, by putting all these small changes together, we make a huge change. This made sense. It was smart, it was achievable, and in a modern world full of all the comforts and expectations we've become accustomed to, it was realistic. And so that's what we're doing, all of us here today. We're doing our bit, we're spreading the conversation, we're challenging the language, and we're celebrating how far we've come, and we're troubleshooting how to do even better. So I know I'm completely in love with Diana, which most of you probably are. She is contagious, as was what was said in the video. But standing here today, I'm proud, but we should all be proud. I'm going to have to use my left-handed flip, sorry. To ignite these masses, there needs to be leaders, those who have reach and influence across all demographics and industries. These leaders are the real game changers because their power and voice could make for much bigger change and much quicker. These leaders are our luxury brands. The work Positive Luxury has been doing for some time now is really changing the way luxury industry is approaching sustainability. And the fact that you're all here today is testament to that. From Louis Vuitton to L'Oreal, the brands are really changing the environmental, the philanthropic, and humanitarian landscapes, whether that's charity work or putting low carbon emission programs into place. Packaging, supply chain, workplace diversity, these are all issues that Positive Luxury thoroughly screens, and with amazing results. But the most important thing about what they do is closing the gap between the brands who are doing all this work and the consumers who want to buy into it. Did you know that more than 85% of customers questioned thought that the term luxury could do with an update? At Positive Luxury, they believe it should stand for something innovative, of exceptional quality, experiential, digital, and mindful, which is what we are here to discuss this morning. On that note, we'll officially kick off Positive Week 2018 by unveiling the digital video campaign asking what luxury means today, with exclusive clips from Positive Luxury brands, friends of the company, and ambassadors.
The future is now. Mindful business is not a distant dream, but an imperative of today.
I think we can all agree that it's important to know the impact of the brands that we are buying into.
To easily understand what they're doing to make a difference to our planet and our society.
But what you might not know is that there's actually a simple way to find out.
This is the butterfly mark. All you have to do is click on it or tap on it, and they'll tell you everything you need to know.
From something as complex as workplace diversity to the simple matter of cruelty-free beauty.
Take action
Today.
And follow
The butterfly.
Okay, and so to begin our first panel discussion, I'm honoured to welcome to the stage our moderator Samantha Conti, the London Bureau Chief of WWD, and our four incredible panellists.
We have Aurélie Picaud, Timepieces Director of Fabergé, Stephen Webster, the jeweler, Desiree Bollier, Chair and Global Chief Merchant at Value Retail, and Arizona Muse, Model and Sustainability Campaigner, and on the advisory board of the Sustainable Angle, a not-for-profit that is looking to minimize impact, environmental impact in the fashion industry. Please come up and take your seats. I have an extra microphone. This is for you guys. Pass it around. Okay. I just wanted to kick off the discussion. I think. Can you hear me?
Hello. Is that working now? No, it's still not working.
Can you hear me? Oh, yeah. Okay, you can hear me now. Okay. I think we're all old enough to remember what luxury used to mean. It was logos. It was everything from logos to bubble baths to indulgence to very personal pleasures. It was status. It was money. And that's changing very, very quickly. I think you guys would agree. So how did sustainability come into the conversation? How quickly is it coming in? When did you wake up and decide that it was an important conversation to be having? When did these changes happen for all of you in your various businesses? Stephen, I'm going to start with you. Stephen, could you talk about the last straw and about the diamonds and yeah?
I'll start with the first straw, shall I? Yeah. Well, I think for me and my company, it was, I suppose, just understanding that there was something going on in the mining industry in gold that was sort of drawing attention to the fact that not everything that was coming to the market, as far as gold is concerned, was perhaps in the most wholesome way, and which made me think about the fact that I've been a jeweller then for maybe 35 years or something, and I'd used gold every day of my life, and I should probably find out a bit more about it. So I got on a plane. I went to Peru. I went to basically what felt like hell, which was a mining area in Peru, and and that had a profound impact on me. And so I kind of connected with fair trade, fair mind, and it was very, very early days as far as the supply chain was almost non-existent. But it nonetheless, it was something then that wasn't going to leave me as far as, wanting the gold that I used to be responsibly sourced. And I think even that conversation at that time was the difficult one, So it wasn't just about how you got it, which was the biggest one, but that nobody really was taking much notice. Okay. And then fast forward a few years, maybe 4 or 5 years, I met Diana, who was really instrumental, I think, in helping me and my business in sort of taking that seed, if you like, of wanting something to be better sourced and applying that to our whole business. Okay. And that really then felt like this now feels like a change. And that's, going on to now where we are today. It's all just very positive for business, positive for us, positive for my clients, and I mean positive in the fact that it makes you feel really positive, which I think in the end comes to what's a luxury. I think a luxury should be something that has a positive impact just on your life, even if it's a feel good, which so that was my journey here.
Okay, great. And Desiree, do you want to talk about your
Sure.
work at Value Retail?
I think for me it was in 2008 when the economy completely collapsed, and clearly the fashion industry was absolutely in a disarray, as much as the financial industry, and the young designers who we've managed to build relationship with through the BFC were struggling. And I decided at that point that we're going to take a stand and we're going to be able to support them by creating a platform for them where they could really actually manage to sell all their samples, all their excess stock, and that money will allow them to really finance their next collections. So that was our first initiative at that point, and then from that, we, as Bicester, basically Bicester Village is the laboratory. It's where basically we test and try everything. We started to roll this initiative out, and we called it the Collective, across all the other villages. And today it remains a very strong part of supporting them. The second bit was about 4 years later, we created the sustainable department. And we started to really look at our footprint. As we own our villages, we reinvest in them. It's easier to really be able to impact the environment. And we looked at, and we dissected basically every single bit where we are violating every carbon footprint. From packaging that we basically have to recycle from the back door of every single retailer who basically is part of our villages. And so we started to recycle everything. And then we looked at, technical, very small things, electrical grids. How do you really impact that, etc., etc. And 4 years ago, again, we took a stand to create a position in our organization called the Chief Culture Officer. Now, it seems very simple today, but 4 or 5 years ago, nobody had ever heard of a Chief Culture Officer. Like, what are they talking about? And clearly, for sustainability to endure time and become a behavioral, embedded issue in an organization, culture has to change. The behavior of your colleagues has to change. The way social responsibility has to be now embedded in their behavior has to become a cultural thing. It's no longer a byline. So sustainability really became actually 3 different prong approach. The culture and everything that goes with it, the green footprint and everything that goes with it, and then of course the fashion bit and how do you really support that and endure time. That's how we thought about it.
Aurélie, can you, I see you nodding, can you talk about it? The journey of Fabergé and what you've been doing there.
So I think that I really started discovering, so when I started in the watch industry, I started really discovering all the behind the scene, because you see a beautiful watch, you see like a particularly mechanical watches, and I discovered really the behind the scene and all the people working behind the brands who make really this product being able to be something like which make people dream. And I was really like surprised that the brands are not highlighting more the work and the passion of people, all the materials which are used, how they are made, and that brands were not that transparent actually with the consumer, because anyway, every luxury watch brand was everything internally about like making sure that the people were happy and making sure that the client will dream, but they will not highlight it. And when I first met with Sean Gilbertson, our CEO at Fabergé, this is something which really resonated to me, because he started really explaining that Fabergé, but already 100 years ago, was everything about highlighting all the artisans, so the human aspect behind the product, and also that one of the core value of the brand and the group of Fabergé is about transparency, and this is about really communicating in a very transparent way to people, really explaining everything from the start and the material you will use for your product to the final product, and that everything that you will be organizing around the product will be also about this transparency and about really embarking the client on this journey. So, for example, with like the gemstones we will use, you can even like invite a client to visit the mine, and just that people really realize what is behind, and that we care about everything which is behind the dream that we want to sell to people.
Thank you. Arizona, can you talk about some of your experiences, because you had them on all different levels, right? Modeling and...
My journey in sustainability began in my childhood. I was lucky to grow up in a house that was quite environmentally aware in a town called Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is a pretty aware, conscious-minded community. So this has always been something that I almost thought was normal. I thought it was normal to think about the environment and to wonder what materials you're using. And it wasn't until 3-4 years ago, so not very long ago at all, that this became my passion, and sharing this became my passion instead of just kind of living it and being aware of it and going about my daily life. And I think that's a big piece that I want to highlight. That's the difference. It's one thing to do it yourself, and it's another thing to talk about it and to share your experiences and help other people to follow suit, because that's what we really need, is everyone who's doing anything sustainable. You need to talk about it and also give a structured, helpful kind of guideline as to how other people can do it too. Because as we all know, the facts are there. It's not a joke. This is the world is changing, and it's changing so quickly, and we really, really need to do a lot of things about it, and not just kind of work our way there in the next 50 years and maybe depend upon our children to do it for us. It needs to be us. It actually should have been our parents' generation who did it, and they didn't get there. So it's really up to those of us who are professionals now.
One thing I'm very curious about to hear from everyone is the end consumer. This week alone, there have been BBC documentaries about waste, about consumption, about how much people are buying on the high street and then discarding after they've been seen on social media in it 3 times. The stores are packed with people buying, and consuming. So I am so curious about this end customer. Obviously, you have had all of your impulses, the companies had their impulses to be sustainable and to make change. What are you hearing from your end customer, from that consumer, and how concerned are they? Or is it just something that we read about in the papers? Are they pretending to be concerned, or are they really concerned? Or does anyone have any anecdotes about that end consumer and what they're asking for and what they're demanding from you? Aurélie.
Thank you. I think that the end consumer maybe sometimes don't always use the word sustainability behind what they are expecting from your brand. But in the fact, today for us at least, what resonates really to people is like having like something unique offered to them, and like from like the bespoke watch that they would ask for, that they will be the only one to have, till to discover, and this is really what resonates to them again, to discover how it has been done. So again, to really go inside the brand to see if they can really identify themselves to the values of the brand. So they really want to be completely inside the journey of the brand and understand everything which has been done. So from our side, I think that it's really about it, and not putting the word, using always the word sustainability, but this is what they expect from us today.
There you go.
We have time.
I think I'm going to say it slightly differently. There are 2 types of consumers. Clearly, my generation that destroyed the planet.
Not single-handedly, though.
No, but seriously, and there are the millennials and Generation Z. Those two camps have a different behavior. And what's reassuring, and I have a daughter who's 26, and I could see that, they are the one we're betting on for the future. And our behavior is changing because of them, right? We grew up in a world of consuming at all cost. They're growing up in a world where, tell me the provenance, tell me what really you stand for as a brand. They're not really consuming at all cost. They're consuming with a certain fundamental behavior and certain ethic. Now, so this dichotomy is going on. In addition to that, there are definitely rising and emerging markets. This is really where it is a very difficult time for any leader. How do you balance this out? How do you make sure that you're making money, you're making decent money decently. Because at the end of the day, as responsible of a business, you need to be profitable. You have 1,300 people to feed. So that's that balance of finding ways of managing businesses, but in a responsible way, is really actually the struggle of any leader of any business. But the millennials are forcing us in many ways, luckily, to think about the world differently, to think about the behavior differently, and be demanding with our partners about behavior, ethics, etc.
Thank you. I think that probably the message from both of you has been that there's kind of divide. You know, you've got a consumer that will now come in and kind of want to know everything. That's not normal though. It's not like that they're all, you know, it's just an element. And then I think this is just, I can only speak from my own experience, and then I think there's people who absolutely want to feel that that just by coming to you, that there's that because of messaging, you know, we've sent out as a brand, that there's sort of a positiveness, if you like, a responsibility associated with what we do. And then you mentioned earlier about a product that we released this year, or early in the year or late last year, called The Last Straw, which of course is completely all about, you know, thinking about your environment and, you know, being a bit angry. You know, this is the last straw. The whole thing about it was to provoke something. And that has been an amazing impact that I've seen on my consumers. And it's because I think they just feel that by buying this, of course, there's an element of that goes to Plastic Oceans charity. So there's that part of it, but that they've now done something positive themselves. And I think this has been quite interesting for us. I mean, it's certainly it has brought someone in who wouldn't maybe have come in before. So just walked in the door, the first thing that their experience with Stephen Webster brand has been through this last straw. So from a business point of view, that's really great. But it's also that you've kind of given your consumer sort of everything that I think people generally want to feel. Yeah. But it's not always, you know, whether it's not that they don't have the tools or all the tools, or that it's not at the moment, for one reason or another, the most important thing in their life, that they're demanding to know everything about what you do. I just think it's about us all, you know, giving as many tools, if you like, to your client, and that will absolutely nowadays has a massively positive effect, and I think it's just part of a process where, you know, you could say 5 years ago, very, very little of those questions, and then millennials, I forget how old you've got to be a millennial, but anyway, they're everything about what they do is asking questions. But I suppose, having been around for a while, you know, you're just seeing that if you give people something that feels really positive, they respond to it, instantly respond to it, and that is something that for us is relatively new, but it's an amazing feeling, you know, all round.
Can you talk also, Stephen, very briefly about your customers you said you have coming in who want their jewelry taken apart, or old jewelry taken apart and then put back together again? They become big on recycling, or asking you to recycle.
Yeah, I think part of being a jeweller, there's always that thing of, you know, someone's come to you for your design and craftsmanship and whatever, but they say, well, I've got this, you know, I've got this ring that, you know, my first husband gave me, or whatever, I don't care. I don't wear anymore. And do you mind stamping on it? No, so do you mind, we can use it for something else? There's always an element of that. Or I had a pair of earrings, I've only got one, which of course now is the way you wear a pair of earrings. But I had this experience which was so brilliant. Obviously, I can't tell you who it was, it doesn't matter, but I met a woman on a beach in St. Bart's, and she said to me, "I love your jewellery." And I said, "Oh, okay, thanks." She said, I've got a pair of your Tracy Emin collaboration I did with Tracy Emin earrings, and I want you to make me a thumb ring. So I said, okay, and she was there with her 2 teenage daughters, so I've got to make a thumb ring. So I make a thumb ring, and you know, I gave her a design and stuff, and she came back and she had a bag with her, in her bag, and so I give her the thumb ring, so she puts it on. So, you know, I don't know what a thumb ring means, it doesn't matter, but what I wasn't expecting was what happened. She gets this bag and she dumps it out, and it was like the crown jewels. I mean, absolutely insane. And there was everything from everybody in Bond Street. She said, when my husband made all his money, he went a bit crazy. And she said, I don't really know where I'd wear it anymore. Can we start working through it? I'm like, wow, this is me for the rest of my life. But what it was, of course, there was a formality to what she had, and I think she felt, obviously had a lot of intrinsic value sitting there on the table, but how can I wear it in a way that suits my life now more? So that was sort of the extreme of that sort of one ring, can you do something with this? And but it did start us thinking a little bit about sort of not just offering it as a quiet service, but sort of encouraging people to say, look, you've got the parts, probably everybody out here has got something. They go, I've got a tray of bits that are jewellery. What do I do with them? And the one thing about jewellery is that you can pretty much use all the parts. So to sort of message it, which is really fun, and you get to hear all these brilliant stories. There's sort of psychotherapy going in there as well, and counselling. But yeah, so anyway.
Arizona, can you talk about the end consumer and in all of what you're doing, all of your different hats that you're wearing, how do you deal with the end consumer? What are they saying to you? What are you saying to them? How are they consuming, and how are you observing how they're consuming? Are there's some that you see that are just that don't care, who want to fill their suitcases and fill their closets, or do you definitely see some kind of traction among your peers, among the people you're dealing with in terms of sustainable shopping?
I definitely see a lot of traction, but I live in London, and I think that has a lot to do with it, that in London people are generally more aware than they are on average in the rest of England or the rest of America, where I'm from. What I think about fast fashion and the idea of consumerism in general is there would be no problem with it if everything that we were buying was made with materials that were not harmful for the environment. That would be absolutely fine. You could buy a t-shirt every single day of the year if it was grown organically, and if the people who made it were paid properly, and if then when you disposed of it, it went into the right disposal, which would be a compost. And the dyes, if it had dye on it, the dyes were non-toxic. That would be no problem at all. So I like to focus on materials, because when you have something that is made of a material that isn't going to cost the environment, then you're actually doing a good thing by buying it, because you're supporting a brand who has done a lot of research, because I'm in this research phase right now of starting a brand, and you have to know everything about every bit of material that you use, even the thread that you use to sew it together, even everything. And so, because dye isn't just dye also needs a mordant to stay on a fabric. So if every brand were doing all this research and finding out exactly how to provide a garment or a product, I mean, this applies to every sector, this isn't just fashion, then we would be able to feel much better about our cycle of consumerism.
Can you talk a little bit about the brand that you're starting and the process and what you're looking at?
Yes. So I'm starting a luxury women's wear brand to be totally sustainable, obviously, and to the highest standard that I can. I want to provide women who thought until now, well, I'd love to be buying sustainable clothes, but it's not really my style. I'm not a brown, earthy, hempy person. I have a different style. And so I'd like to provide clothes for women who have more of a metropolitan style to be able to wear sustainable clothes that are either, the materials will be either totally organically grown, and if there are any synthetic materials, they will be recycled. So we're not using any virgin petrochemical-based fibers or plastics or anything. So that at the end of the life of the garment, because even the garments that I make, that I love and cherish, they're waste. It's waste. I'm making waste. So I need to make sure that at the end of the cycle, the waste is a responsible piece of waste. It's not going to add onto the burden that our planet is already dealing with.
One thing that I'm going to also ask you to follow on about, I wanted to talk to everyone about sustainability and the environment and the working environment and people. We're going to be talking today about materials, about supply chain, but I would love to hear about attitudes towards people and working environments. And Arizona, I want to start with you because also, I'm fine, thank you. Because also you have worked in the modeling industry for many years. You've seen changes, you've seen recent changes. Are they working fast enough? Is the industry working fast enough to protect models, to make sure that their lives, that they can make a living and that they're protected and they're not working crazy hours or being harassed on the job? What are you seeing on that front?
The industry has very recently started to move on this issue, which is fantastic, because even when I started 10 years ago, there were no rules and no guidelines, and agencies are not trained in how to handle very, very young women who are thrown out into a very adult world, very young, often without a chaperone or with a chaperone, but the chaperone might not know anything about the industry either. So what type of a chaperone is helpful? It needs to be a question that the agencies need to know how to answer and understand. A lot is changing, a lot of talk has happened. I do think that we need to see a lot more action and stronger action still. It's similar to sustainability. A lot of people want to do something, but they aren't quite sure what to do yet. Okay. And so we see a lot of factions around the protection of models cropping up. One of them is called the Responsible Trust for Models, and I'm a big supporter of theirs, an ambassador. They're really trying to make it a global effort rather than each individual country trying to make rules and regulations to protect models, and that's really important because it's such a global industry. Fashion Week is the best example of that. Models begin for a week in New York, and then they go to London for 4 or 5 days, and then they go to Milan for a week, and then they go to Paris for a week. So it wouldn't make sense to have the protection for them to be different in each of those countries. It just wouldn't. Yeah. Why would you be more protected in Italy than you would be in the UK? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, we're working to the right direction. Everyone is, and many brands are realizing that it's their responsibility to make sure that they're asking for models from agencies who are responsible. And it would be great if we can get a gold standard passed of agencies who have a seal of approval, so that as a brand, you know, when you go to one of these agencies who has the stamp of approval, you will be receiving a model who has had an education on what she should look out for, what she needs to be aware of, and that she really feels comfortable that she can actually go to her agents and they will actually help her if she's in a difficult and an uncomfortable situation. Because I've heard many, many stories about models who don't feel comfortable going to their agents, or they go to their agents with a big problem, and the agents say, "Oh, but shh, it's fine. It's not fine." Yeah.
Thank you. Aurélie, can you talk about when you're taking your customers and you're taking them to the workshops and to see the back end process of how the jewelry's made? Can you talk about the workers there and what you're doing for the workers, the Fabergé watchmakers?
So also since a few years there are more rules, and also I think all the brands now are very conscious of who they are working with. So for sure they make sure that all the artisans and all the people behind everything they do follow these rules, that the people working there are treated in the right conditions. And I think that, for us the most important is that when the clients are coming, they feel more than anything the passion of the people, and I don't think that people who would be treated in a bad way would be able really to translate this passion. And this is really going from the person who will be behind the bench to assemble the movement, and we will be really proud to show to the clients that he is in charge of really doing something positive and nice for the product that the person will be wearing. To also, for example, if I come back to visiting the mines in, for example, for emeralds in Zambia, and to see that the gemstone is responsibly sourced, but also that the company will be taking care of the family of the people working there, and also doing health clinics, and making sure that the children are educated. And I think this is really something very, very important, just to show from A to Z how it will be done. And again, I think that it will be for luxury almost impossible to make people dream without really making sure that people working with you are happy in what they are doing.
Steve, and then I want to.
You want to know about my supply chain and my workshop and how happy everybody is. They're always smiling.
In the gold
we
line.
pump in a gas. We kind of we changed our business a lot as a business in the last certainly 4 years. Some of it has been just because the world's changed, but I think it's also about sort of going back a bit to where I think our strengths are. And our strengths are when we can apply what we're really good at to a product. And for me, as a craftsman, a lot of that's about craftsmanship. And not so much looking at something and saying, like, you know, okay, if we make it here, it costs this much. If we make it there, it costs that much. There's always an element of that. You can't ignore it, obviously. But, you know, I've been trying to kind of pull back a bit to this. We have this thing called England Made Me, which is obviously a sort of a twist on Made in England, and it's been really kind of fun to do. So I've got our workshop, which of course everybody's really happy in, and my apprentices and stuff, and I'm very confident that is a good place to be. The light's great in there, and it's got air conditioning, but I think. Then I go out to, I spend a lot of time on trains now rather than planes, which is really great as well, because I've got these craftsmen are all over the place. I don't know why they choose to go to places like St. Ives and Lyme Regis. I can't think why, but anyway, they do. And so we're sort of working much more with artisanal kind of craftsmen. And apart from the story being so brilliant, it kind of, I suppose, reconnecting a bit with, you know, some of the people I went to art school with, and that was in 1976, and some of them are still alive, and doing incredible work. And I make kitchen knives as a sideline, and I had Thomas Heatherwick come round to my studio just because he was visited, and he picked up a knife. It just was lying there. And he said, "This is amazing." He said, "Did you know that I love knives?" I said, "No, I had no idea." He said, "This is such a beautiful knife." I said, "Well, the blade was made in Peckham, the handle in Cornwall, it's designed in London, the block was made in some Sheffield or something, I don't know. Anyway, but the fact is, it was all of these things, but it was a really beautiful thing, you know. And I think it's not that I can do everything under one roof. I mean, a bit like you were talking about with gemstones. I mean, unfortunately, they never seem to find emeralds in Croydon or someplace. They're always somewhere far flung. And so you got to be, you know, you got to connect in a global way. You can't not if you make anything that requires these parts. And then all you can do, without repeating myself, is to make sure that your supply chain will play by the rules. You know, so we can only work with you if we know that you are looking after your workers appropriately, the environments, all those things. And I mean, you know, it's not one size fits all. You know, if you're in some continent and another continent, and God knows it's, but you just gotta. There's a human side to it, which is very evident, And I think that I think with some confidence I can say that our supply chain has had that. We've gone through that process, so that we feel we can be as transparent as we can be with it, whether it is St. Ives or in Madagascar or somewhere. So.
Desi, can you talk, because I know that you guys do a lot of work around the communities where the shopping villages are.
Yeah. Well, we have 11 of them, so 11 different communities. And because they're destinations, they really welcome very much of an international crowd. So the rule of them was, with our employees, they needed to be as diverse as much as our guest will be. So we do have, it's a very inclusive, diverse 1,340 nationalities and about 33 languages spoken. And that is on the internal side. And then at the same time, coming into, I remember when we first came to Vista, it was actually cowland. There was nothing. And we had to somehow not be viewed as the enemy, but viewed as an integral part of what the future will become, part of that community. And we started to work from day one with the community, be it for community bus or being part of the hospital help or et cetera, et cetera. And over time, we build an amazing relationship with those communities. In every single country we are in, we really are very much part of that community. We're very much the #1 employer often of that community. And many of our actually staff and families basically are part of that community. On the other side, on the other hand, maybe we have about 67% of our workforce being women. That comes actually with a whole set of thinking. Women will be eventually mom, so you need to really establish flexible hours, and they need to really have the freedom to work out of home. So we've decided that from day one that we will never have a head office. That's not going to exist. We are basically going to be really working with either being village base, which is part of your community, or you work from home. Or you really, and now with the WeWork and etc., we provide you with a membership club of office. Now, it felt normal at the time. Today, it is normal, but 20 years ago, it was abnormal.
Yeah. It was strange. Yeah.
And it was a very strange way of thinking. And it defined what we would stand for as an organization. Women will be important, flexible hours will be important, maternity leaves will be important, and being part of the community and hiring within that community is going to be important. That means training program, etc., along the way. And that paid many, many returns because we've kept morale up. Many actually employees that work for the brands would actually leave the brands but would never leave the village. It's quite of an interesting kind of bond that has been created amongst the various different and it is communities that work within those villages.